Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. What's that sound? It's the sound of rice porridge boiling. The object on top of the stove would normally be recognized as the large bell struck by the priest between readings of the Buddhist chants in the main hall of the temple. Today, at the foot of the mountain, instead of a pot, the bell is being used to cook the porridge. Why? Because the town was hit by a huge tsunami. At just a bit past 2 o'clock on the afternoon of March 11th, 2011, a large earthquake suddenly occurred. Boom, 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 boom. I can't stand up for long. Crack, crack. The house is making some awful noises. Outside, the telephone poles are swaying back and forth. They're shaking so much it looks like they might snap. At last, the large earthquake calmed down, and the people of the town evacuated towards the temple. And then, after a while, a huge tsunami approached from the sea. Whoosh! Crash! Looking like a mountain, the tsunami smothered the pine trees on the coast, smashing them down. And then, with a violent spray like gray smoke, from the sea to the rice paddies, from the rice paddies to the town. Whoosh! Boom, boom, boom. Crash, crash, crash. Until just a few moments ago, the people of the town were chatting loudly or relaxing and watching TV in those very homes, which were now crumbling and being washed away by the tsunami, which even came up to the foot of the mountain. Standing outside, the priest and his wife saw the tsunami surging up the rice paddies. Tsunami! Quick! Climb up the mountain! They called out to the people who had evacuated to the temple. The people rushed up the mountainside behind the temple. The tsunami lashed at their feet. They grabbed at what they could as they desperately tried to reach the top of the steep mountain. One foot climbs up, yet slips down. Another foot climbs up and then slips down. Yet, when they finally got to a point where they could say, if we got this far, we should be okay. When they looked back, they saw the tsunami swirling immediately below. Cars and houses were swept up before their very eyes. Whoosh! Crash! Somehow, lives were spared, but the tsunami had come up the base of the mountain, and the people who had climbed up could not go back down. It was freezing cold in the mountains as the snow began to fall. And eventually, the night became pitch black. Even if they sat by the fire, their bodies shivered and their teeth chattered. Earthquakes rumbled on over and over again through the night, and the mountain shook and shook and shook. And with each time, the sound of the nearby tsunami could be heard. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When it became light the next day, looking from the top of the mountain towards the town, the houses that used to be lined up so closely could not be seen. Ah! The houses are all gone! They had been swept away by the tsunami, and there was now nowhere for the people to return to. Beyond the rice fields at the edge of town, water stretched out as far as the eye could see. It had become like an ocean. At the bit of land near the temple, broken pillars and crushed cars, pine trees from the coast, dead chickens, and more. So many things had been washed up. Heavy stones from graves were even scattered about. There was destruction everywhere you looked. In the middle of that mess, there was something shiny and round. Looking closely, it was the bell that the priest always rang in between his chants. The upside-down bell was not only without any major damage, but was shining as if it had been carefully cleaned. We found something good. There should be some brown rice in the warehouse. With this, let's make some rice porridge, thought the priest. For the townspeople, who had not eaten since the previous day, were very, very hungry. Someone asked, "But the bell is so holy. Won't we be punished for using it?" However, with no idea when help would come, the townspeople could not be left like this. The priest said, "If there is to be punishment, I will take the blame," in a firm declaration. And so, the bell from the main hall of the temple became a pot for cooking porridge. Pushing their tired bodies forward, the priest and the people of the town began to prepare the porridge. First, they went to check on the rice. There was a big hole in the wall of the warehouse. Looking inside, they found the rice. It had not been washed away. The bags stacked on the bottom were wet, but the ones on top were dry. Conveniently, there were plenty of bowls as well. To make porridge, water is necessary, but the water supply was broken. However, the priest pointed at the ground and said, "There is a pipe that draws water from the spring that goes through here." Around that spot, there was a large amount of debris swept in by the tsunami in a messy way. What's more, a mini truck was also lying on top of all that. 1, 2, heave ho! The hungry people all gathered to first move the truck and the large trees aside. Then, the priest used a shovel found in the wreckage and dug at the piled up dirt. Scrape, 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 scrape. Finally, the pipe peeked through, and when they cut it open, water forcefully poured out. The pot, rice, and water were now ready. Next was the stove. To make the stove, they used broken concrete blocks. Everyone gathered together the heavy blocks. The bell was placed on top of the finished stove and became a large pot. The women washed the rice with cold water. Using the bowls that were found, they rinsed the rice and put it in. Rinsed the rice, put it in. The fire burns under the pot. The once shiny bell quickly turned black with soot. Eventually, it began to make a gurgling sound, and the rice porridge began to boil. While the porridge was cooking, people made chopsticks. Cutting thin pieces of bamboo with scissors that were found, snip, snap. The scissors were small, so it was difficult to cut well. Enough chopsticks were made so that there could just be one chopstick per person. Like this, by the time the porridge was ready, it was already past noon. There were about 80 people who had evacuated together. Everyone shared the precious porridge, bit by bit, so that they could each enjoy some. Even though it had already been a day since they last ate, they could only have one bite each. In the blink of an eye, it was all finished. But in the empty pot, they prepared the next batch. And before the skies turned dark, the second round of porridge was ready. Even if it was only a little, the food that they enjoyed warmed up their shivering and anxious bodies and gave them energy to get through the second hard night sleeping outdoors. Like this, until the rescue helicopter came on the third day, even in the cold conditions on the mountain, the people were able to hold on to their lives and endure. What happened to the bell after that? It was carefully repolished and returned to the temple when it reopened. To this day, it joins the priest as he recites his chants, and its sound rings throughout. The name of the temple is Ryukokuin. This is a true story from the Great East Japan Earthquake in Nagatsura, Ishinomaki City, Miyagi Prefecture.